this video blog we want to discuss exactly what is the personality type test, how does People Maps approach it, how do you use it, who uses it, and what you can hope to get from it. And we also want to explain why the People Maps type test is so incredibly accurate. Now we've said that this is a personality type test that actually works, and that's not really to be disparaging of other systems, because there's many other good systems out there. Um, but there's also an awful lot of really kind of joke tests and unprofessional type tests, and I think everything tends to get mixed up. So we're really looking here at professional tests that actually do what you want them to do, and not all of them can do that. So let's explain a little more about how personality actually works and how you can apply it to make those big differences in your day-to-day. Now, the first thing we want to basically say is that People Maps is a Jungian system, and this is a picture of Carl Jung, who essentially is the sort of father, if you like, of psychological profiling. He published a book in 1921 called Psychological Types, and most of his research is still the backbone of much of the work and much of many of the systems that you see today in this field of personality testing and personality typing. So we owe him a great service. And I say People Maps is a Jungian system. Many other systems out there are also Jungian systems. And I say even the ones that are not strictly Jungian systems still owe something to the research of Jung. Now, it can be used in all sorts of different ways, and People Maps' approach to this has been to develop very specific applications and specific reports for different areas. So we don't take an approach of, well, here's a personality report about you and go figure out what to do with it. We actually deal with the application first and then deal with it. So for instance, we have a range of services to deal with career development, and rather than give a single report and somebody try and figure out what that means to their career, we actually start with the end in mind. So we think, okay, if we're writing a report about career development, we start with that premise and we only write in that premise. So we have an entire section of personality topics and reports written specifically around career development. We wouldn't expect someone to try and figure it out and make it fit. Similarly, we also, and probably where we spend most of our time these days, is working in the field of recruitment. We help recruiters, line managers, make better hiring decisions. It's extremely difficult to hire people, especially when you do it part-time as a line manager, because you've got a day job, let's be honest. So we developed a specific system, and the People Maps personality test has really developed a whole platform there with over 40 topics written specifically to help line managers with their recruitment, with their interviewing, with the thinking about the kind of people that they really want and what they really need and what they can actually accommodate. You know, some people want one thing, but actually they don't have an environment like that, so they can't really support that. So it's really about, and for us, we always want this win-win scenario. We can't accept that it's ever a good idea to have a win-lose. So we need the candidate to absolutely thrive, and we need the company to thrive, and it's a win-win scenario. So we have developed a whole system for recruitment specifically. A couple of things. The People Maps questionnaire is quite unique. People Maps system was developed for the internet from day one. It was never a paper-based system dragged online. So we adopted internet technology from the very first day, and we've only ever had an online system. Now this comes with various advantages and perks. We don't have all that old legacy to drag online, and therefore we could design a questionnaire from the outset that would work in an internet age that you couldn't do in a paper-based system. So if you look at the People Maps questionnaire, you'll notice that when you click on one of these statements, it disappears and leaves you with only 3 statements. Well, you can't do that on a piece of paper. And also we decide most and least, and of course prioritise the remaining 2 statements. So there's a lot more going on here, and you'll see that these statements are all pairs of statements. So although this questionnaire, the result is we can create a very short questionnaire. The 10Q takes about 7 minutes, the 5Q only takes about 2 or 3 minutes. But there is no compromise on the system's ability to generate accurate reports because of the very clever design of the questionnaire for an internet age. And then finally, I want to mention the People Maps map. People Maps is a bit unique in the personality profile world because we don't use labels. And instead of using labels, what we do use is the People Maps map. And that allows you to at least visualize where you sit in relation to other people. So you can see your flag and you can see the person next to you's flag. And this allows us to talk and use our language. So in this case here, the person is clearly in the north, probably in the northeast. But we're not giving them a label. And it's very important that we don't use labels because they're unhelpful. They tend to prejudice the outcomes slightly. And of course, they're all much more complex than a handful of labels. And the labels are really convenient for people like me, but the reality is that we are much more complex, we're much more unique than that, and really you need to start to see that nuance. It's not enough just to give half a dozen or a dozen labels to people and expect that that's enough. We really need to respect that people are much more unique and the diversity of personality is huge, and that is not really done justice to when you're just using a handful of labels that kind of just pigeonholes people. And yeah, it might be simple, but that doesn't mean to say it's sufficient. And we feel that we need something more, and that's why we use the map. So it allows you to communicate. You can say, well, I'm the northeast, where are you? I'm the southeast. Oh, that's interesting. But it doesn't label you. It allows you to communicate without labeling. And that's the beautiful thing about the People Maps map.